I ran into LifeWave at a convention in Los Angeles in March. So I've only been using the patches for like maybe two and a half months now. When I was volunteering there, so when I made it to the booth where LifeWave was, Sunday convinced me to go in the bathroom and put the ice wave on, and I was like, all right, fine, I did it. And she called me a day and a half later and was like, so how's your pain? And I'm like, what pain? I totally just forgot that and that was unheard of before that. My pain in my leg was, it made it hard to sleep even. So when I shocked myself by going, gee, wow, it is gone. So that's what brought me to LifeWave.
You started patching with what? X39 and Eon and Icewave. What did you patch with, Denise?
I patched with the X39, the glutathione. What's the one that starts with a C for the brain at the
Oh, carnosine. I love
carnosine, because I've had a couple brain injuries. So, but my goal was to, so it was the ion, the glutathione, the X39, and the carnosine is what I started with.
And you say you had some brain issues. So what's been going on now with that for you?
I remember a lot more now, but that's not the biggest surprise that I got recently.
What's the surprise?
Okay, well, going back a little bit, since 2012, I had a lesion next to my adrenal gland, and over from then until 2021, it ended up turned into a mass, which in 2021 they told me that it was extending to my my spinal cord, and that it was developing a nerve sheath tumor attaching to my spine. So I was like, that's not good. And they sent me to all the doctors, blah, blah, blah. They, of course, you're fine. It's nothing to worry about. I didn't believe them because that's where the pain was coming from. It was cutting up some of the nerves. Anyway, so I went to, they did a CT scan periodically over the years. In 2021, they did a CT scan. And my doctor just ordered one last week. So I went for the CT scan. I already knew there was going to be, this was my thing. I got to see, I feel so much better. I want to see what happens, what comes up on this test. So when I went down there, now they were supposed to do two, one before the contrast and then one after. Well, he did two without the contrast, and he just was like, he had a bewilderment. So he came in, he did the contrast, and he did the test. And then he came back in and he is like, I need you to stay on the table. I need to wait 15 minutes. I need to come back in and scan you again. So I was scanned 5 times. They ran me through, hold your breath, wait for the machine to come back out. And not realizing at the time why he was redoing these tests is because he wasn't seeing what he saw in 2021. And so he didn't even, in my report, he didn't even mention that he did the pre-contrast scans because he wasn't seeing anything that he was supposed to be seeing. So he thought he did something wrong. Poor guy.
Oh, wow.
In hindsight, I feel bad by not telling him, hey, you might not. But yeah, it was amazing. So I had a lesion on my liver. I had a 3.9 by 3.7 by 3.2 mass next to my adrenal gland, and then the nerve sheath tumor that was attaching to my spine. Well, they detected nothing on my liver. They detected no nerve sheath tumor, and the mass has gone down to 5.5 or 3.5 to like 3.1 or something. It's gone down, but the nerve sheath tumor is like gone. And they detected none of there's some other, I forget off the top of my head. There's a couple other things that had been detected, I think. So yeah, I was blown away that I mean, it actually went away. And I feel bad for this poor technician because he literally thought he was doing something wrong, because they scanned me 5 times the other day. And
okay, so wait, I just have to hear this again. So in 20, was it the lesions came at what year?
Okay, so 2021 was the last CT scan I had prior to this one last week. And
lesions everywhere. And then
okay, so they did an MRI, a CT scan, and that all confirmed the same thing. I had a nerve sheath tumor that was growing from my adrenal gland, the mass by my adrenal gland, to my spine.
Okay, so and now we redo it in 2023 and they don't see it.
Right.
I just want to make sure I got that.
Right. Exactly. I mean, yeah, I have an appointment coming up to talk to the doctor. I'm curious what, yeah,
How
it's
long have you
amazing.
been, how long have
I've
you been
only
on
been
the,
patching. I've honestly only been patching since March, end of March.
so like for 4 months? I mean, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
it
I
is.
feel bad for the guy. You're right. He must have thought he was totally like losing his mind.
So
Like,
the
what
machine was broke. I
happened?
mean, yeah, I mean, you know, that they're scanning because the machine tells you to hold your breath, don't move, and then brings you back out. So yeah, he made me stay on that table for another 15 minutes, and so he
Wow.
could do it again. It was kind of crazy, but I'm excited because it gives me a lot of, Well, I also have another
He
story.
made
I don't
you
know.
redo it. He made you redo it. He made you
Yeah, he
redo
wouldn't
the
even let me
MRI.
get up. Yeah, couldn't get up. I just had to wait 15 minutes on the table, and then he came back in after 15 minutes and said, "Okay, I'm going to redo the scan again."
Okay, I just have to tell you because I've been doing MRIs forever with my stuff, and an MRI is not easy to be on the table. You go numb and stuff, and it's like tough. And that he made her do it even longer because
This was a CT scan, but I did have an MRI done prior to that. See, I haven't redone that test yet. They haven't
got
redone
it.
the MRI, but yes, they have.
I can't
So all
believe he had you sit, he
these
had
things,
you do it
you
all
know,
over again on the table. That is
yes.
amazing. So Denise, like, what you're a miracle is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I'm not the miracle. I think LifeWave is the miracle. But I have another testimonial
Oh
that
yes.
my mom is sitting right here next to me. Is that okay?
Oh yes.
Okay, so my mom's 87 years old. No, she's going to be 87. She's 86 right now. Her birthday's next month. So I've been taking care of her for the last 3 years. I've stayed home and lived with my sisters. So I stayed home to take care of her. So she's been my focus for 3 years. I know her inside and out. And now my mom has kidney failure. So her kidneys are like 20%, 21%. My mom has chronic COPD from 50 years of smoking palm oil non-filters. And she
Mm.
also has an aortic aneurysm. Now, all these things were stable. We've had them stable. Okay. I just started patching her at the same time as I started patching. So, what, 3, 4 months? And she fell on June 4th. She fell. We just gotten home from the casino. Yes. So we were just out for the day, and my sister was a little bit too far behind her, and she fell and fractured her pelvis in 3 places.
Oh wow.
Now, she also cracked 2 ribs. Now, with all the chronic other conditions that, major things that she has, um, obviously she went to the hospital. When she got there, I'm not going to mention the hospital, but when she got there, they left her in the emergency room for 24 hours. She developed pneumonia because, she aspirated because they weren't paying attention. So long story short, that's when they found out she had the pneumonia, because I noticed it was hard for her to breathe. So I was like, they were sending her home. They were ready to send her home. They weren't going to do nothing. They didn't even realize, how bad it was. So I've had discussions. They admitted her to the hospital. She was treated for 5 days for the pneumonia. They said that, long story short, they cut her off of all fluids and all everything. Um, and basically said that we need to make, come have everyone come and do their final goodbyes to her. We flew family members out from Chicago, from different places, to say goodbye to my mom. The doctors were like, she's not going to recover from none of this. She won't survive the ambulance ride home to even go home to die. We just need to accept that. And, so I was like, I'm not buying this, because I had been patching her for months, and I didn't patch her the first week she was in the hospital because the doctors told me no. And I dealt with that. Long story short, she was awake. She was kind of coherent. Then they gave her some fluids, but then I left for the day, so they cut off all her fluids again. And then they overdosed her on Norcos. So because she didn't have any fluids in her to flush anything out. So she OD'd. They had to give her that drug, that Norcan drug, to bring her back, because her blood pressure and everything dropped so low. It was like 54/48 or something like that was her blood pressure. So it was like they were done. The doctors told us that we couldn't bring her home to die. I was like, no. So I started giving her water behind her back. I was like, she wanted to drink. She kept asking for water. So I was giving her drinks of water, even though they said that she didn't pass the swallow test, she couldn't have it. So they basically gave up on her. They weren't giving her food, water. So I was giving her. So I started patching her about day 8 in the hospital. And now, mind you, after they OD'd her, they didn't flush out her system with fluids either. So she hallucinated for like 12, 15 hours after they overdosed her on it. Okay. So anyway, long story short, I started patching her with 8 different patches. Every patch that you guys have, I started patching her in the hospital. They take them off. I put another one back on. I'd use the old ones and put them around it. So by the time they were decided they were going to send her home to die, she was sitting up in her bed, talking, saying, telling when the ambulance came to bring her home, because they put her on hospice, sent her home to die. Basically, we got the comfort kit. They told us that food was for comfort only. As far as her eating when she got home, she ordered a pizza the second day she was home. Okay, so yes, and they told us that if she ever sat up in bed or got to get into a wheelchair, it'd be at least 12 weeks minimum before she could even move or lift her hips. Now, I added the X49 to her patches and the Elveda, and so I was patching her with everything. And I'm gonna let her say hi to you right now. Okay, can you say hi, Mom?
Hi, how are you? Oops.
Well, hi, Mom.
She said hi. She's hard of hearing. That's the only thing we're still working on.
Hey, she's doing great.
I'm gonna sit her up a little more. She literally walked from the bedroom to the living room the other day with the physical therapist. And she gets up to use the commode. They told us she wouldn't be able to move or survive the ambulance ride home. And she told them, So I was sneaking her water and sneaking her patches in the hospital, and she's all checking her hair. Look at her. She sees herself in the mirror, so she's checking her hair.
Your hair looks nice. You look beautiful.
So she's on no blood pressure. She was on different meds, so they cut off all her medications. So she's no longer on blood pressure medicine, on her heart medicine. She's on none of that stuff, and her blood pressure has been stable and normal since she's been home. She eats whatever she wants when she wants. She calls the shots here. She wanted to tell you that her brother's 89. She's going to be 87. So
Wow.